Welcome in everyone to Money Lion MMA coverage of UFC Nashville. Coming to you guys on August 5th at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, where I am residing. This is going to be the first event I get to see in person, so I'm very excited. The headline event was Corey Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov, the um, surging brother, of course, from Dagestan, and he had to. I think it was a shoulder injury. They had to call him off. In fact, both of the Nurmagomedov brothers on this card called off, and they got a late minute replacement. So it's a catch weight bout at 140. Sandhagen versus Rob Font. And that being said, right before we get into that action, I'm going to quickly recap what we saw last weekend. It was a great UFC pay-per-view, great event nonetheless. But overall, there were some definite hurdles. I think in both of our line of picks here, Jose, it looks like your top couple of picks didn't have. I mean, I shouldn't even say that because Jan, man, that was such a close fight. The split decision, and it really was a split decision. I mean, it was every bit of like a toss up. I think it was Pereira round one, Jan round two, and whoever's choice round three. And they went with Alex Pereira slightly, but it really could have went either way. Um, they just didn't favor. There was like a takedown that Jan got with like 30 seconds left, and he just was so gassed that he took Pereira down and did nothing. And I think that almost actually harmed him in the long run because it kind of showed that he just was so dead that he was trying to do anything to not get knocked out or whatever. Um, Either way, insanely close fight. Tony Ferguson, I felt bad to see it. Um, Green got the job done. Oh man, Chiesa got the loss. That was I like Kevin Holland though. Honestly, that was good to see him win, but taking the loss, and of course, Poirier. That was Jose's correct pick, getting Gaethje, and I took Poirier, who got kicked into oblivion pretty much. Um, Not much more to be said about that. Justin Gaethje is the BMF belt holder. Moving on to this Saturday, the main card will be starting at about 8 p.m. Central Time with the prelims at 5 o'clock, and you bet that we're going to be there right away for the first fight of the prelims. It wouldn't be any other way here at Moneyline MMA. But for the show strictly, we're going to give you guys 5 picks from the main card each. Now there are 6 fights on the main card. Each of us have made 5 picks and assigned a weight from 1 to 5, with 5 being the most confident weight of the pick, and you can use each number once, 1 being the least confident. So not only we're making picks, but we're giving a confidence level in it, and we're going to start from the most confident and go to the least confident, covering all 6 fights of the main card, and beginning with the co-main event. Jessica Andrade is coming back. She's been pretty active in 2023, and she is fighting Tatiana Suarez, an undefeated fighter in the women's strawweight division. And this is really interesting, Jose. Andrade, like, what was it? A year ago, was dominating Lauren Murphy. It was something like a year ago. Um, it was 6 months ago, dude. 6 months ago, Andrade was dominating Lauren Murphy, and now she's a plus 310 underdog to Tatiana Suarez. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, Nick, historically on the show, I always, it's hard for me not to go with Jessica Andrade, even, when she came off that loss to Erin Blanchfield. I think against that fight going in the Yan, I thought Jessica Andrade would be the one to come in with a first round KO or TKO. Every time I've seen her fight, she just comes in, she just bites down her mouth guard and just comes in and starts throwing a heavy barrage of punches. And normally it has gone in her favor, but as of lately, I think people have realized that if they can survive that initial wave, they can ride it out and eventually possibly even put her out herself. And Jan, she got an incredible win over Jessica Andrade in the first round, and I want to go with Jessica Andrade. I really do, but she's going against Tatiana Suarez, and it's really hard to go against Tatiana Suarez at this point. I mean, even when she took a short layoff from 2019 to 2023, she came and looked nothing but phenomenal and getting a second round submission. And I think in this one, Tatiana Suarez is going to come in and be a little more of the technical fighter. I think it's going to be a high striking match as well. Both throw a significant high volume of punches. Jessica Andrade, of course, like, again, she does have a tendency to kind of tire out, and even like back in the day when she used to find Joanna Jacek, they show they can survive it. She can survive it, and just pretty much beat down Jessica Andrade for 5 rounds if needed. Luckily, this is a 3-round fight. I think Tatiana Suarez is good enough to get a unanimous decision win over Jessica Andrade, or if not, even possibly get a submission over Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade has been uh, submitted in the past only 3 times. I think Tatiana Suarez overall is good enough to even get a submission win on her. So that being said, yeah, and when it comes to the grappling department, Tatiana Suarez definitely has the wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I think, over Jessica Andrade. I think Tatiana Suarez is more likely to get that takedown and look for a submission attempt. So for this one, yeah, I have Tatiana Suarez. And sorry if I did not say she is my 4-weight. I have her as my 4-weight, so I have her either winning by unanimous decision or even submission.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think pretty much all that you covered is exactly what I agree with. Tatiana Suarez dominated Carla Esparza in their fight back in 2018. I mean, it wasn't even close, man. She's choked out Alexa Grasso, the current champion. I mean, it's honestly dominant how well she's been lately, and I think that's going to continue. She's had some bouts with injury problems. Obviously, there's a gap from 2019 to 2023 there where she didn't fight, but she came back against Montana De La Rosa and got the job done. And that gives me the confidence to continue betting on Tatiana Suarez. I do think this is one of the cards of the month or even of the year that's kind of variable. It was really hard to put a weight on some of these picks, and because I think a lot of them could go either way. And this is one of those fights that I'd say is as close to a guarantee as we should be able to get.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Nick. And the only equalizer I think Jessica Andrade does have is that knockout power that she carries. But that being said, yeah, Tatiana Suarez I think is just too good. But again, Jessica Andrade can prove us wrong. But for this fight, I feel very confident with having Tatiana just be my 4-weight.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, that being said, I'm gonna stick with Tatiana as my most confident pick of the card. Jose's got her as his 4-weight, and we'll move on to now Jose's most confident pick of the night.
Yes, so my most confident pick of the night is the lightweight bout between Ignacio Bahamundes and Ludovic Klein. Um, right now, yeah, right now Bahamundes is the betting favorite at -200, while Klein is the betting underdog at +170. I think this is going to be a fun matchup, Nick. Both guys are strikers, but Bahamundes, man, his striking percentage. He lands 7.93 significant strikes per minute, which is just ridiculous. Granted, he's still young and hasn't been in the UFC that long, but he does have a good amount of fights on his record, and his only loss in the UFC comes via split decision. So Ignacio Bahamundes, he has a lot of momentum coming with him. And Klein, on the other hand, he's just coming off a majority draw. And before that, he had 2 wins, but even before that, he had 2 back-to-back losses. So for this one, Bahamundes, he trains locally in the area where I'm from, here in the Chicago area, and I know he comes from a great camp. And that being said, he's training with killers, and he's kind of like a year in a way. He's also flashy. He has a highlight knockout spinning KO on his in the 3rd round too. So he's showing that he can finish people in spectacular fashion later in the fights. So for this one, yeah, I feel extremely confident having Bahamundes. Nothing against Klein. I just don't think Klein's really showed anything to prove that he's going to beat Bahamundes. His last 2 victories come one via decision, being unanimous, but the one before that split decision. So for this one, I think Bahamundes, he's more likely to get the victory, and I think even KO or TKO. 9 out of his 14 wins come via KO slash TKO. So for this one, Yeah, I feel extremely confident having Ignacio Bahamondes as be my five weight, and I think he's probably he keeps racking up these wins. I think he's going to be a future threat in the lightweight contention. So for this one, yeah, you can put me down for Bahamondes as fight as five, and I'm just curious, do you did you put a weight on this fight, Nick?
No, this is the one of the five I did not pick. I definitely would lean with you on this, though, with Ignacio. I think that was a great observation that you made. His defense of the takedowns is phenomenal. Overall, he just seems to be the better fighter in this case. So, yeah, I agree with you on Bahamondes here.
Yeah, so there you guys have it. I have Bahamondes as my five weight. Nick did not put a weight on this, but he definitely has a stamp of approval on betting for Ignacio Bahamondes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So then, that being said, we'll move on. So we've covered both of our most confident picks and Jose's four weight by proxy of my most confident pick, where we both agreed on the co-main event, Tatiana Suarez. Let's move on to my four weight, second most confident pick of Saturday night, which is going to be moving a little bit down to the earlier part of the main card. We're going to go with the Gavin Tucker versus Diego Lopez fight. And look, this is an interesting one. But I'm going to be leaning with the Diego Lopez side. And I understand that there's a lot of recency bias going on right now with Diego Lopez. He's had a kind of a rough UFC career so far, strictly in that he's 0-2. At least 0-1 off of his Dana White Contender Series loss. So he still got the contract and lost, but he was the last second replacement fight against Mosvar Evloev, and honestly, he really stuck in there and almost submitted him multiple times. It was really close. He's clearly like one of those guys he's kind of throwing power strikes, and he allows takedowns a little bit. Like he got taken down twice against Evlov and was clearly just trying to, almost like the Paul Craig kind of thing, where he's just trying to get the submission. So that I guess that's the one thing that concerns me. But either way, my four weight here is going on the Lopez side. He is currently a minus 140 favorite. Gavin Tucker is a plus 110 dog. Thing about Gavin Tucker is he hasn't fought since March of 2021, and in that fight he got knocked out by Dan Ige in the first 22 seconds. I mean, it was quick, it was fast, it was brutal. He got KO'd and his lights got put out, and he hasn't fought. So he hasn't won a fight since 2020. I guess it's to me a lot of that and the fact that he hasn't fought recently. And I think Diego Lopez is going to be able to stand up with him decently well. It's not like Gavin Tucker has a really good striking differential to where he's just going to be able to outbox Diego Lopez. I think Diego brings a lot of power, and obviously the threat, if Gavin Tucker takes him down, the threat to submit him at any time. So, Jose, what do you got for this one?
Yeah, so for this one initially, I was definitely leaning on Diego Lopez, and he definitely would have been like my three or four weight for sure. But just I started looking from the other angles too, and I feel like Gavin Tucker, even though the one thing that does scare me the most, I will say that I do have Gavin Tucker as my two weight. I'm not that confident, and the reason is because I do think that his maturity and his age is definitely going to play a factor in it, in both good and bad. I think he's definitely going to utilize his wrestling. He averages at least almost three takedowns per fight. And while Diego Lopez is phenomenal, his grappling is. It's probably just because he hasn't been in the UFC that long. But I'm like just the one fight alone, and plus the Contender Series. I think right now, Gavin Tucker will probably be the one to initiate more of the wrestling and take Lopez down. I don't think he's going to submit Lopez at all, but I think he can deliver almost like a type of ground and pound. And yes, he is coming off that loss to Dan Ige, and that was a couple years ago. So that's definitely been enough time to for him to definitely recover. And I'm not worried about that. It's not like I mean, even though Alex Pereira just won against Yanni, it was controversial. There was a lot of questions on how his fight would be coming off a knockout loss 3 months ago. But this is a knockout loss, a couple years ago now. So to me, I'm not worried about that. It is his age that I'm the most worried about. But overall, Gavin Tucker, he's a pretty solid, well-rounded fighter. He's got decent wrestling. He throws a high volume of punches. He throws actually, thus far, what he's shown in the UFC compared to Diego Lopez. He does throw about double the amount of strikes. He lands about double the amount of strikes per minute than Diego Lopez. I think Gavin Tucker is going to be able to squeeze a win, probably by split decision. or unanimous decision, but I don't see him finishing Diego Lopez. But I do see Gavin Tucker's experience in the UFC and his maturity being a factor in it, because he's had out of his fights in the UFC, he's only lost two of them to Ricky Glenn and Dan Ige. So he definitely has he was on a 3 fight winning streak, so he's not far off to kind of get back in that. And I think, yeah, he's most likely to either get a late rounds a late win, either unanimous or split. So I'm not the most confident in it. Diego Lopez being younger and having actually more fighting experience than Gavin Tucker is definitely a huge concern for me. But something about it, tells me that he's just gonna kind of squeeze in a win somehow. So but I'm not that confident. So that's why he's my 2 weight.
Okay. Yeah, dude, I totally get everything you said there, and honestly, we align on a lot of those beliefs just on how the fight's going to end in the go out and finish in the end. Because I think if that Gavin Tucker's going to win the fight, you're right. He does need to wrestle, and I think he can out wrestle Diego Lopez for sure. It's just a matter of deflecting the submission attempts as well as Evloev did. I'm not sure many people will be able to. Diego Lopez almost had him in multiple spots. So if he can get Gavin Tucker in any one of those spots, but that's going back to what you said with the ground and pound. As someone who's picking, as someone who's picking Diego Lopez, excuse me, I'm thinking that he needs to stay aggressive on the feet. If he just allows Gavin Tucker to take him down, wrestle him, it's going to be a recipe for losing that decision, like you said. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. If Diego Lopez allows himself to get wrestled, the outcome you're predicting is probably going to happen. I'm really hoping he comes in here, throws some good strikes, and at least shows himself to be respectable enough on the feet, and maybe Gavin Tucker still takes him down exhausted and gets himself in a bad spot where he gets submitted.
Yeah, so for this one, this is gonna be one we'll both have to agree to disagree.
Yep.
I have Tucker as my 2 weight, and you have Diego as
Lopez.
your Lopez as your
Lopes.
4 weight.
Some people say Lopes. Oh, yeah, totally Lopes. My man Lopes. But yeah, so that being said, we'll move on to your 3 weights since we've covered both of our 4 weights.
Yeah, so for my 3 weight, this is actually the main event between Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font. Yes, this is a catchweight bout at 140, so I'm excited about it. This one, straightforward. I think I'm just gonna have to go with Corey Sandhagen. I think he was already in a camp getting ready for a fight, and now having to cut less weight, I think just makes it that much more to his advantage. Even though I think I saw a thing like where people who join last minute as a catchweight, they tend, like, I think there's a percentage of them winning fights more often than not. But in Rob Font too, the thing is he was already getting ready for another fight that he had previously scheduled that was already kind of in the works against Yadong Song. So I think he's gonna come in tip top shape as well. But Corey Sandhagen, he's just too flashy, and he's, I think, a little more of a finisher than Rob Font. So for this one, I got Corey Sandhagen, but I have him stamped right in the middle as my 3 weight. And right now, the betting odds are that Corey Sandhagen, he is a minus 310 favorite, while Rob Font is a plus 230 underdog. What weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
Man, excuse me, man. I have this as my 3 weight as well, and we actually do agree. I did pick Sandhagen, so I agree with Sandhagen. I think I'm not as focused on the aspect of the late replacement. If this was actually at 135, I'd be a little bit harsher on Rob Font for sure. But being at 140, Rob Font doesn't have to cut as much. And like you said, he was already planning on fighting. I think it's in UFC Boston, which is going to be next month at some point. Next month being, I believe, in August or late August or something. But regardless, he was going to fight soon, so he is already in the camp. And I don't know, man. Rob Font is just a dog. He's from Boston or whatever. He's just got that element of never giving up, and he's not going to be put down easily. So that's really what led me against making Corey Sandhagen a higher weight. I think Corey Sandhagen definitely will be able to be the more calculated striker. Rob Font's jab is nuts. but really everywhere else, and especially the kicking too. I think Corey Sandhagen is better with kicks, and in all honesty, I think he can wrestle a little bit better too. Um, I think those things kind of combined. We could also look at common opponent Marlon Vera. Corey Sandhagen got the split decision win, but let's be honest. I think Corey Sandhagen deserved the unanimous decision win there. He really put it on to Marlon Vera, and Vera was able to beat Rob Font via decision. So um, it was one of those things where Vera got a few knockdowns on Rob Font, and I think the knockdowns were key in that equation. But regardless, Corey Sandhagen, he is the favorite. It's quite heavy favorite, so I see a lot of value in the dog. And me personally, man, I'm not making any bets on this fight outside of over 3.5 rounds. I really don't see either one of these guys getting their lights put out. I expect this to go the distance.
I was actually about to say, yeah, Nick. I don't think since I have Corey Sandhagen as well, I don't think he's going to be able to put out Rob Font. He's only been like submitted once, and that's it. He's never been knocked out. So yeah, I think Corey Sandhagen, if he's going to win, I think it's going to be probably a unanimous decision. He is good enough to just I think dominate technically. Both him and Rob Font are extremely good in general. In hindsight, I just think Corey Sandhagen adds a little more flashiness and pizzazz to his striking, kind of like Yair Rodriguez. But when you look at the numbers, like striking wise, they both throw a high volume of punches. Corey Sandhagen lands almost 6 significant strikes per minute, while Rob Font lands about 6.5. So they're really about in the same ballpark for that. And when it comes to grappling, too, both guys are not afraid to engage. Both average about at least one takedown, at least landing at least one takedown per 3-round fight. And both have about pretty solid wrestling defense as well. So I do this fight is gonna be I think pretty kind of a wild one. I think it's gonna be a high volume striking. We're definitely gonna be seeing takedowns from both guys, and I think we're definitely gonna see Rob Font and Corey Sagan at some point on their backs, fighting off their backs. So I think this is definitely gonna be. I think this is probably a better fight than what was booked before. To be honest, I kind of like this one a little more. I think it's gonna be a little more fan friendly and exciting. So, and I just think Corey Sandhagen is going to be the one to come out on top. So that being said, yeah, like yourself, Nick, I have Corey Sandhagen as my 3 weight.
Sounds good, man. I think he's a good maybe parlay tool there. But I'd really be cautious with a lot of the fights on this card. As confident as I could be, I can't be more confident than Tatiana Suarez, to be honest. And outside of her, it's really hard for me to put a confident parlay together. Because in my opinion, even with Diego Lopez, I could see Yavin Tucker wrestling him and being boring the whole fight and winning. Just as much as I could see Rob Font sticking it to Corey Sandhagen and winning a split decision or something. It's the UFC, and anything can really happen. So that being said, let's move on to my 2 weight then. We've covered everything through both of our 3 weights, and I believe we have 2 fights left to discuss. My 2 weight is laid on the light heavyweight bout between Tanner Boser and Alexa Camor. Tanner Boser is kind of almost, dare I call him a journeyman light heavyweight at this point. He's fought a lot of different guys between Kudalaba, OSP, Alir Latifi, Arlovsky, a lot of the older guys, and even fought Cyril Gahn back in 2019. Tanner Boser's kind of a big dude, so I think he's gone kind of up and down in weights. But at this point, I think light heavyweight is the place he's looking to stay against Alexa Camor, kind of guy who's coming off a couple of losses. He had a good start to his UFC career, but lost to William Knight, and really since then kind of went on a skid. And I believe he had to get surgery on something, and he ended up being out for 2 years. This is the first fight that he's had in 2 years, mostly due to that injury. So for this one, I'm taking Tanner Boser. He opened as the favorite. He still remains the favorite at -188. Kimmer's +146. I just think not only his experience, but his activity as of late, and just being in general better. What I'm going to expect is just to be more experienced and less ring rust. and just be able to do what it takes against Camor, who won't have any particular part of his game that's outstanding, in my opinion, against Bozer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for this one, I'm going with Alaska, and yeah, he is my one way because it's just I'm obviously the least confident in this fight. I do think Tanner Bozier being the one with the most being having a lot more UFC experience than Alaska, and like you mentioned, he's fought big guys. He's fought former heavyweight champ Andrei Arlovsky, and he has a win over OSP, who's gone the distance with John Jones. So Bozier, I think he's good enough to even get a potential knockout win, but this is the heavyweight, so I do think it goes both ways. Alaska being a lot younger, he's only 27 years old. He still has a lot to learn and improve in his game, and I do think he can get a win over Tanner Bozier. He is coming back off two back-to-back losses, one of them being via split decision. But he overall is an explosive fighter, and I think he's gonna bring in the heat. I think he's gonna come in similar fashion to what Tom Espinal and Derek Lewis, like that type of. I think he's kind of coming with that type of momentum. He's a big underdog, and he's a plus 160, while at least right now, let me check again. Yeah, he's actually at plus 142 right now, and but he throws for the fights that he's been in. He lands 4.78 significant strikes per minute, slightly above what Tanner Bozier throws. But this is light heavyweight, and I think Aleska is probably going to be the one that's going to initiate wrestling in this. Tanner Bozier and is for as long as he's been in the UFC, he actually has zero takedown average and zero takedown accuracy. So he's mostly just defending these takedowns. Um, Being heavyweight, Aleska, he has wrestling. It'd be silly of him not to utilize that and try to ground and pound himself. So I think he's going to be. I think overall he's going to be the more athletic fighter coming into this one. So I think he should definitely utilize his high striking and his slightly better wrestling to get a victory over Tanner Bozier. Whether it's the light heavyweight guys, it can be either a decision, I can see it, or even knockout or TKO. The chances of Aleska getting this TKO, it is possible. Out of his 6 wins, 5 of them are KOs. So I don't know if he's going to put out Bozier. He's only been put out twice. I don't think Aleska is good enough to put him out. If like people like if Cyril Gahn couldn't do it, Andrei Arlovsky couldn't do it. I don't think Aleska is going to be the one to do it. But I mean, Ian Cutelaba did it, so but this being said, yeah, it's not much of a confident pick I have here, but he's an underdog. But he's my one way. I think him being slightly younger, and a little more athletic will give him this edge in victory over Tanner Bozier.
Okay. Okay, well, we're just going to have to disagree on this one then as well. I really think Tanner Bozer, I just realized his birthday as well is Wednesday. I'm recording this on Monday, so in the middle of the week he'll have his birthday and he's fighting on Saturday. Maybe that's not the greatest motivation, but I think he's going to have, at least he's going to want to, like, he's not going to be able to celebrate that today. If he's being disciplined, he's going to wait until Sunday to celebrate that. And he's going to get the win on Saturday and then get his celebrating out of the way. So I'm going to stick with Tanner Bozier getting the job done against the returning Cam Moore. Which brings us to the last fight of the 6 on the main card that we haven't discussed yet, which is my one weight. And this is the feature card of the fucking night, man. I can't believe it. This is honestly a fight I've been extremely excited to talk about, but we haven't gotten a chance to just because of the nature of the order that we use in our show of the most to least confident picks, man. Because that just means I'm not that confident in my pick, but I'm extremely excited to see these guys fight. We're seeing Dustin Jacoby against Kennedy and Chuck Wu. Dustin Jacoby is coming off of a couple of losses, but in all reality, Azamat Murzakanov is a tough loss. He's a great fighter. And the split decision loss to Khalil Roundtree is complete BS, in my opinion. So in that case, I think Dustin Jacoby should be at least 5-1 in his last 6 fights. And Kennedy has just been on fire. He's currently on what you could consider to be a streak, 3-0, with finishes in his last 3 fights against Carl Roberson, Cutelaba, and Devin Clark. Kennedy Chekwu has a lot of power, but in all reality, I'm not sure he has the overall striking ability to beat Dustin Jacoby. He's the real deal, man. Dustin Jacoby has multiple KOs on his record, including one against Dawoon Jung, who, going back to the common opponent thing, was able to TKO Kennedy and Checkwu. So Dustin Jacoby really has a well-rounded boxing game that I think Kennedy will have to respect. But the problem is that Kennedy is just first of all, his sheer size, man. He is 6'5" and Dustin's 6'3". 83-inch reach to Dustin's 76-inch. I think that's going to be noticeable in the ring. And I think Kennedy in the end is just going to pose such a knockout threat and such a towering threat that over time is going to kind of wear on Dustin Jacoby. And I think sometime in the third round, we might be seeing a KO. So what do you think for this one, Jose?
So for this one, I actually didn't. This is one of the fights I did not put a weight on, but yeah, I would probably go with Kennedy as well. Jacoby, he's I believe he's fought Pereira back in the day too. I think this fight overall, like in kickboxing, that is, this is definitely going to be more of a stand-up striking matchup, and it goes either way. Jacoby is honestly, yeah, as an underdog, you know. That I think it's pretty live too. I think he may be. I think he has more kickboxing striking, but in the UFC right now, from the statistics I'm seeing, it shows like Kennedy. He's slightly is just like, engages in the wrestling a little more, but overall, I'm gonna go with the favorite Kennedy like you on this one. And I think this is gonna be. I think someone may go out in this fight. To be honest, I think someone's live to get knocked out. Maybe too early to say, but yeah, this is a fight I did not choose for this one. Yeah, I had a tougher time choosing between the two because I do think it's going to be like a pretty equal matchup on the feet. Kennedy does have a pretty he has a 7-inch reach advantage, so I think that's going to be definitely playing part maybe a role in this. So in the striking exchanges, so yeah, I definitely actually feel more confident now going with Kennedy for this one.
Yeah, man. I think I'm not trying to take away from Dustin Jacoby at all. I might a little part of me outside of any part of me that bets money on it's going to be rooting for Dustin Jacoby as well. I like him a lot. American dude, and he's really versatile. I'm just not sure because to me to beat Kennedy, you really have to have like a perfect 15 minutes. The second you give up your chin, you're getting knocked out. Kennedy's just been able to KO everyone in his path lately, and a few of those people are really respectable names that aren't washed up at all. So we'll see what he can do to Dustin Jacoby, but Jacoby's going to be hard. I think Jacoby's really going to put up a good fight, which is why I'm thinking it's going to be later. If it does get a KO finish, I'm thinking third round. But that being said, I got Kennedy as my one weight. So that finishes it up then. That completes our 6 picks for UFC Nashville. Jose and I will be in attendance for this show here in Nashville. We're going to be excited to attend at the Bridgestone Arena. So we will be rooting on. Gladly we agree on a lot of these picks, but not quite all of them. And we'll have to see whose picks win. But in the end, Corey Sandhagen is likely going to be one of the locks of the week, as well as Suarez. I'd say Sandhagen Suarez is probably the best parlay to roll with this week. And keep it easy, right? Too many people making 10-leg parlays. It's just so unlikely to happen. Keep it easy with the parlay. Make it 2 legs. Make it a money line on one single bet. You're going to get at least something back instead of nothing. So if you take anything from Moneyline MMA, take that. Thank you for listening and or watching, and we will, as always, be back next week. Every Monday before the UFC fights. So thanks for watching again, and we'll be back next week.